Well, hello and welcome to New Hope for today. My name is Pastor Andrew Hise, and I'm the pastor at New Hope Friends Church in Goldsboro, North Carolina. As someone who is a student of preaching and teaching, and as someone who preaches and teaches quite often, I take in a lot of sermons. I tend to listen to at least one or two sermons a week. I tend to read one or two sermons a week. I tend to watch one or two. I take in a lot of sermons through my time. And honestly, in my lifetime, I've taken in lots of sermons. I grew up in the church, so I've heard many sermons live. I went to Bible college. I went to seminary, so I've read a lot of sermons. I've listened to a lot of sermons. I know a lot about preaching and teaching. And one thing that I've noticed in my lifetime, and especially as I've studied this, that when a preacher wants to really convince their audience that everyone there has sinned in some way, that everyone there has committed an act that is against God, that is a sin, they always go to a similar place. Now, I can't fault them, because honestly, I've done the same thing, and I've done it many times in my preaching and teaching career. And I think many pastors and preachers and teachers have come to know this, and they've tried to correct this, and they go other places. But you'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you've been around the church long enough. But if they want to convince their audience that they are all sinners, they always go to the command to not lie. Now, I wondered when I thought of this, why is that? Why do they go there? Well, I think probably because they know most of us in our lifetime have told, even if it was just a little innocent lie, a little white lie, they would say, we've all told a lie at some point in our life. Whether it was to get out of the consequences of having done something, we lie about that we did it, or to make ourselves look better, or to keep someone else's feelings from being hurt. We lie. We're deceptive, and I think that is true. But maybe you're sitting there and you're listening to this. You're saying, "No, Andrew, I'm not a liar. I'm a very honest person. In fact, I'm so brutally honest. I tell people like it is." And I don't care what they think of me, and I don't care anything about how I look. I don't care about any of that. I'm a very honest person. And I would say, that's great. I hope you are. But I would also say, I think we lie not so much to other people as much as we lie to ourselves. I think the person that I've probably lied to the most in my lifetime is me. Not people around me, not my mom, not my dad, not my wife, not my kid. None of them. I've lied to myself more. I've told myself lies like, if I can just get to this point in my life, then everything will be okay. If I could just have this one thing or do this one thing, then I'll actually be happy and fulfilled. Or I know how to do this. I've said that many times when I had no clue what I was doing. Or the place I lie to myself the most is in the mirror in the morning. When I look at myself in the mirror and I lie and I try to deceive myself into thinking I'm in better shape than I am, or I'm look better than I do. I lie to myself every single day. We deceive ourselves. And the scriptures tell us this, that we, to our core, are full of deception. That is who we are. We deceive ourselves. Our heart is deceptive, highly deceptive. And I was reading Ephesians, which is part of our reading plan, and I hope you are following along in that reading plan. And I came across something interesting in Ephesians chapter 4, which we should be reading this week, probably tomorrow, for you if you're following along. But Ephesians chapter 4 says something very interesting when it comes to our former selves and when it comes to how we are to be in Christ. Now, of course, the context here is within the church body. It's being truthful to other believers. But I think this applies all the way down, all the way to any lie that we would tell, whether it's to someone else or to ourselves. And it says this in Ephesians chapter 4, starting in verse 20. It says, "But that is not the way you learned Christ." And what he's saying here, he's talking about sensuality. He's talking about all these hardness of heart, all this crazy stuff that these people are doing, these Gentiles are doing. He says, that's not the way you learned Christ. Assuming that you have heard about him and were taught in him, as the truth is in Jesus, to put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. Now he says all of this. He talks about our former selves, how they're full of deceitful desires, how we're full of untruths. This former manner of life is a corrupt life. And he tells us how in Christ we are to put off that old self and put on a new truthful self, which is Jesus. Jesus is truth. And so when we're doing this, we're renewing our minds, we're renewing ourselves. And so the first thing that has to go is that deceit. And you know how I know that is because in verse 25, right after he says this, right after he says, put off the old self, put on the new, renew your minds, be true, be in the true righteousness and holiness. He says this, therefore, having put away this falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. I think this applies both ways. We can't deceive ourselves anymore. We have to take an honest look at who we are. You know, today, maybe you're deceiving yourself into thinking you're a better person than you are. Maybe you're deceiving yourself into thinking, I'm a good person, I'm okay. When the scriptures tell us that we do have deceitful desires and we do have these evil intentions in our heart. And we have to guard against those things. And so today, maybe we just need to be honest with ourselves. And maybe today, you're not struggling so much with that. Maybe you are struggling with actually being deceptive to other people, especially people within the church. You know, I think the place where we lie the most, other than lying to ourselves, is right in the church. We want people to think we're better than we are. And you know what? People can see right through that. They can see the hypocrisy. They can see right through that. But heaven forbid that we're part of a church where everyone is just constantly lying to each other. Instead of speaking truth and really being honest with where we are and how we are doing, don't let pride get in the way of us telling the truth, especially as it comes to our church body. I pray that today you will put off the deception, maybe the deception to yourself, maybe the deception to others, and be true to who you actually are in Christ. Put on the truth of Christ today, and you will not regret it. You will not regret it. New Hope for Today is a video devotional released on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is recorded by Pastor Andrew Hise of New Hope Friends Church. New Hope Friends Church is located in Goldsboro, North Carolina at 4451 U.S. Highway 70 East. New Hope for Today. Strength for today, hope for tomorrow.